Hi everyone, this is a special episode. This is finishing up year 2020, and not just the year 2020 but the past decade as well. So I'm going through what happened in high-end audio in the past decade, what were the changes and how does it impact us, and we'll also give you pointers for the next decade to come. And I really hope that you will check this video out to the end, because it's going to give you a very different perspective from what you are going to hear from other online channels, online reviewers, because I'm not an online reviewer. I consider myself an educator. I have a lot of experience in high-end audio as not just as a listener, but as someone who knows about audio, who builds audio for himself. And I want to give you ideas to think about, to take you to the next level. So to bring you out from the deer in the headlights consumer stage to mature audiophile. So we have faced, this was the biggest change that happened in the past 10 years, the internet culture. It has been established and changed from as the guiding star from personal experience. So before, how we audiophiles worked is that we went to a hi-fi store, we listened to stuff, checked them out, bought things, brought them home, tweaked it, modified it, built our own versions if you were that much into it, and then you built up your own experience. You talk to other audiophiles. We have lots of audiophile friends whom we have direct personal contact with, and they've been my friends for like decades now, and we are really close to each other, and we share our thoughts. We like write tons of emails, lots of things. So lot of real life hard connections. That's what builds up our audio experience. And now this has been changing over to internet culture, when people just read the online reviews. You cannot really go to stores, especially now because of the restrictions, so you are forced to listen to stuff on YouTube. But people constantly forget that when you check out something on your phone on YouTube, that's not how an audio system sounds, and you are getting compromised experience. So, and also what people forget is that in any area of life, not just audio but martial arts or everything, you have one true expert among 100 people who call themselves experts. So there's a lot of fakes, and the shining stars are far and few in between. And if you are online browsing through stuff, it's most likely that you are going to get the showy type of things, the superficial channels, and usually it's the superficial values that attract millions. So you have, and all of us have a very hard task ahead of us to find valuable information online. There is a lot of valuable information, but as I said, for every valuable channel you have dozens and dozens of channels which will not help you in your audio journey, but will take you on side roads and into dead ends. If you look back in the 2000s, the high end was considered to be a system between like $15,000 to $50,000, so 15 to 50, and it looked like audio gear which is really dependable, a system put together with a lot of love and care and knowledge. And the average audiophile of the 2000s I would say not the average audiophile, but the self-actualized audiophile was a person who put together a system like this. And now, during the past years, this has changed, and now high-end seemed to be fractured into two extremes. One of them is the entry-level budget system. So people now think that if you get an under $1,000 system, that's already high-end, and because there are lots of reviews that say, oh, there's this $300 component and it sounds as good as that $3,000 component, and people think that for if you pay like $1,000 with a couple $100 best buy, best deal, awesome, super kick-ass things, then they are getting high-end audio. Actually, what they are getting is good value for the money they are buying. So, for example, if you are just a student who wants to get your feet wet into audio, you want to listen to something at a better quality than the mass scale consumer products, then this is an excellent thing for you to do, to put together a budget stereo system. But that's not high end. That's the low end of audiophile category. That's very far from high end. And there's the other extreme of what people are considering high end today is the $1 million toys, which is in 90+% of the cases is more about show than substance. So I find it really, I would say, disappointing, because the true high end, which lies in between these two categories, it's almost as if it has disappeared. There are products in that category and they are getting better and better every year, but the focus from that range is almost gone. And if you look at big online channels, when they talk about like, oh, there's this $100 component and it's almost as good as that $1,200 component, then such posts get like 1 million likes, like tons of people, a massive increase in subscribers. But when that poor reviewer reviews something which is like a $4,000 component, he gets like a massive dislikes, that whoa, that crap, overpriced products, how dare you review such things, this is for the average humans. But come on guys, yes, it's really expensive, but high-end is not about $100 products. So you have to, if it's a good online reviewer, he has the duty, he has the job to tell you that there is something more than an entry-level system. And high-end is not the $2,000 price category. I mean, like a $2,000 for a whole system. That's just the beginning. Even if like within the $2,000 category you are getting the best $2,000 system, it's still just a $2,000 system. If you want to step up and improve, it costs a lot of money. Most of us cannot afford that type of money. And that's why if you cannot do that, but you want it, then one thing, maybe just make a few compromises in your life. Most of us, especially here in the US, are wasting enormous amounts of money on things we don't need. And if you just plan a minimal budget, like maybe set aside $200 each month, and then within a few years you have enough money to step up to the next level in audio systems. Or if you want to if you have the persuasion that you are willing to learn how to build equipment, audio equipment, or modify it, then that will get you to your goal in a much cheaper way. Because for audio products, let's say talking about speakers, the components cost is about 10 to 30% of the entire product's price. So if you can't afford a $50,000 speaker, then if you have $5,000 plus you take your time to learn how to build it, then with $5,000 you can build a $50,000 sound for yourself. But that requires from you learning new skills and stepping up in your life, in just being ready for becoming a human who has more than one side and who does a little bit more than is a champion at lifting beer after work. And that brings us this championism of just beer drinking and caring nothing and expecting to have 50 million bucks and just buy the most expensive stuff. These are unrealistic expectations, and when we have such expectation, that's when nothing will happen in our life, and we will become trolls in the audio world. There's lots of trolls who plague the community, like the snake oil peddlers and the snake oil disbelievers whose only job in life is to cry snake oil at everything which costs more than $50 basically. Anyway, so back at this past decade, is that it's been the decade of the shiny toy syndrome. We have been just like the cast of the American Idol, the judges. It's like, like someone gets a violin and just do this and they go, oh, like total absolute nihilism, like lowest standards, like below the lowest standards you can imagine, and just going for pure show, like the most ridiculous things, like why do you need to put on wheels? Regular weights are not good enough? No, because this is not about lifting weights, it's just creating the biggest show, like getting more spectators, having like 10% boost in your channel. It's just utter ridiculousness. And what real art is, what is that really gives meaning and purpose to life, it's completely lost. The art is disappearing and has been disappearing from high end, and it has turned into show. And parallel with this, as we have been turning to show, the sound that high-end systems now reproduce, not all of them, but the majority, this is the trend, this is the tendency. It's an artificial sound that really dazzles and does tricks on you, but it's really far away from being music that is compatible with human life, I would say. So today now, balanced sound and systems that produce balanced musical sound are not considered audiophile enough. They are sneered upon by most of the community, and the yardstick to measure how an equipment sounds, if it's real or not, is against highly processed studio sound. So if your high-end gear can reproduce sound that is like really artificial studio sound, then it gets the thumbs up. And if it produces sound which would be like unamplified violin or a real piano, it doesn't really get much attention. So I would say that high-end is using humanity and turning to something really artificial. Do we want to support this trend? For my part, I do not. So that's why I am building my equipment, and I'm really happy with it, and I do not have any kind of desire to go for those show toys which take you to an artificial land where you can't even enjoy music. It's all about a certain type of sound which gives you an artificial reality, but it's like being in a very big VR module, and it doesn't do us any good, because music is supposed to be something that recharges you, gives back your energy, your purpose of life, your gives you your ignites your creativity. uh, it, it just flowers your compassion and blooms your compassion and your human values. High end today is taking all of that away from us. And there has been a tendency, which is really, really harmful, is that audio gear is being played louder and louder. And the thing behind that is louder always feels better. So if you compare to audio equipment, if your ears are not trained, you just wander into an audio store and you hear an excellent sound played at a soft volume, and then you hear a crappy Class D system blasting at 120 dBs, 100 out of 100 people who have no training, and I'm talking about males only, will vote for the 120 dB. And this has been a tendency, and we are escalating to louder and louder and poorer systems. And with this type of loudness war, the fascination with the show quality of sound and the sound itself, like how does it sound exactly, how can I describe the spatial characteristics, and is it crisp enough, or do I hear an extra 100 hertz frequency extension, stuff like that, like things that just keep you in your mind. That type of fascination has absolutely skyrocketed, and the interest in music itself, it bottomed, it's plummeted. So now the new, with the hyped stereo systems, you will get this absolute fascination with a select few recordings, and if you want to listen to your favorite records, you will not listen to them, because your favorite records will sound horrible on today's ultra high-end systems, and there's only a handful of selection that you can play on them, which will give you that ultra wow feeling, but it will be music that in all likelihood you would never ever listen to. It's like enjoying a Christmas gift only for its wrapping paper. So there's like maybe like a roll of toilet paper inside, but it's wrapped in the finest silk, and you go for that. That's high end today, losing interest in music completely. And another trend that has happened, which was not there before, is streaming. And of course there are some good streamers, but the average streamers on the market and the average way they are set up in people's homes, they have done more damage to our habits for listening music than good. And part of it was that even compared to CDs, there's a big alienation from music going on, and the reason for that is just streaming just facilitates the culture of just staying on your couch with your beer, and you don't even have to wake up. You can just get out of your bed. You wake up in the morning, pop open a can of beer, press the remote, and then that's it. Your playlist starts automatically, and then occasionally you are pissed that your favorite songs are not provided anymore. You can grumble, but no one will hear it anyway. That there will be 100 new songs that you don't care at all, but that's what is available, so you will start streaming those. And in the beginning you think that you have so much because maybe you had a collection before of 100 CDs. Now you can you can have like a million songs at your fingertips, but you do not have control over them. And when you eventually compare Redbook CD to streamers, you will find out that you will tend to listen to Redbook. So if you have that minimal stamina of getting off your couch to insert a CD into the tray, then you will find that within a month or so you are just popping in your CDs and not turning on the streamer at all. A big tendency that's been happening on how we get our information is that we used to have magazines, and there were the reviewers at the journals like Absolute Sound, Stereophile and others, and that used to be our beacon and the guiding star of what is really high-end audio. And now it's giving way to review channels and influencers, people who have their living as being these influencers who review products and tell their opinions on what they found out, and that's their livelihood. So they make their living of reviewing products. So actually they are doing the same job as the magazines were doing for you, but in a different format. So it's not on a paper print or not on a website, but it's on a review channel. But it's the same thing. But just different people, little different aspect. It's easier to search, but it's easier to overdose on, and also it's harder to get a baseline for you. So, but if you are listening to someone talking to you about things, if you don't know that person, you don't know what are the hearing preferences, how is the hearing of that person, then you cannot form any idea of the values of those reviews. Because I know from experience that when I'm with my fellow audiophile, we listen to a system, like a dozen of us, and then after that we discuss what have we just heard. There will be really vast differences between the perception of people. And if you have like audio friends, and you get together with them every month, after like 5-10 years, everyone knows what the other's preferences are, and when they tell you their opinion about something, then you know that okay, I know that that person has really critical hearing at the high frequencies, so he wants to have the high frequencies more turned down. So whatever he recommends, so if he says that the highs are too shrill for him, then probably the highs are just good enough for me. But if he says that I'm not hearing enough highs, then you know that system has really huge problems. But if you do not know how that person's preferences are, how he listens to music or she, then you are totally clueless. Why are you being steered by those opinions? You actually, it's really good that you listen to it and get some experience, but be your own guide. So if you have a chance, listen to those products that the reviewers are talking about, and do not, so if maybe you hear that, ooh, that thing is like really bright and shrill sounding, but the reviewer said that it sounds silky smooth, then you know that, oops, maybe there's a big difference between how you hear and that reviewer hears, or there was a very big difference in how that equipment was set up. And this is the part of your education to figure this out, what is happening, how's your hearing, how's the reviewer's hearing, what are their preferences, and then it will be useful for you. But if you just turn on YouTube and watch one video after the other, it will be totally worthless and wasted time out of your life, gone out the window. So what are the areas that we want to see improve during the next decade? This is the stuff that you will see what influencers and reviewers on YouTube will be talking about at the end of 2020, at the beginning of New Year. Everyone is excited that there will be much better decks coming out. We are going to see drivers with even longer excursions, even bigger power handling, and even lower impedances. And we are going to see improvements in DSP. And of course, everyone is waiting which will be the first $10 million system to come out. Maybe we will see a $50 million system, and wow, we'll just be just so totally stoked when that comes out, right? And of course, we want to see much more online reviews. We want to see it in 4K, in 8K, in 200K. We want to hear it in 1 billion hertz resolution, 50-bit depth, of course, right? That's what you want, just exponential technical advancement. But I'm not really excited about any of these things happening. They are totally unrelevant to or irrelevant to our audio journey. It's just the shiny, showy fluff. So let's get rid of the fluff. And this is the most important thing that we need to have, need to make a step in the right direction towards agreeing on what good sound is. Because this issue has not been resolved, and it has been muddied and murkied even more than it used to be. And we just all need to just face the facts and recognize that marketing dictates recognition of products. It was the magazines that dictated the recognition for in the 2000s, but in the past decade we now saw the turn that it's online influencers who are taking over the role of being the main spokesman and spokeswoman. Of course, 99% is men, so the main spokesman for what is good sound. And it's driven by money. It's driven by the sponsors who sponsor those products which are reviewed, and this needs to be changed. And changed in what direction? In the direction that musicians should be the ones who judge the good sound. What is a good sounding equipment? According to them, what gives meaning to high-end audio? What are the good high-end audio products? And these voices are almost completely missing from the high-end audio world. Why no one asks Yo-Yo Ma about listening to high-end systems and then asking him for a recommendation? What system would he recommend to listen to? Musicians, especially classical musicians, and when you think about conductors, they have excellent music education, they have excellent hearing, and they are the authority on music and sound. What a person says who did not dedicate their lives to music, it's totally secondary compared to their judgment and what they hear. And if we do not listen to them, and I think I'm much smarter than them, because I am reading a couple reviews and I am buddies with certain companies, engineers who have their own ideas about sound, that doesn't qualify me and doesn't qualify them. If I would be working for a big audio company, I would employ people like Yo-Yo Ma and other world famous musicians to give me evaluation and to give me directions where to develop my products to. So CEOs and owners of high-end audio companies, ultra-end audio companies, get musicians involved in your production development pipeline. And you can also use it as a marketing tool. Come on. Wouldn't your product sell 50% better if there was Yo-Yo Ma backing up your product? Yes, it would. And it would sound 10 times much better than having an I don't know what kind of engineer who got his degree from MIT or I don't know where, but has no lead in his ears and he's developing your products. Come on, for goodness sake. Well, I was getting carried away there, but rightfully so. Apologies if I offended some sensibilities, but I believe the whole industry and all of us audiophiles should really have our aim and our purpose and focus rechecked. Going back to musicians, I just listed a bunch of famous musicians here who should have been involved in the development of high-end audio. And actually thinking about Leopold Stokowski, he was an amazing conductor and he was really involved in high-end audio. In 1934 he already developed his own stereo system. 10 years before the advent of stereo, he already experimented with it on his Altec speakers and Altec system. So he was someone whom I want to see more today. Why is the kinds of Stokowski gone? Why don't we hear them anymore? And also there was Bartók, Béla Bartók, whose son was a recording engineer. And they had a recording company called Bartók Records. And it just sounds stellar. The best Bartók recordings are on the Bartók label. I think most people haven't even heard of this label at all, but I have one such recording, and that's my best quality Bartók. It's just phenomenal, and that type of attitude is just gone from today. You don't see musicians contributing. So that's my message for online influencers. Please get more musicians involved. Company CEOs, get more musicians involved. If you think that, for example, MC Hammer or rock musicians have their hearing blown because they play so loud, then do not invite those musicians for your production, but invite those musicians whom you know, and you know that they have excellent hearing and they have good judgment. And if you don't know such musicians, then please get to know such musicians. Place a tiny bit of effort to link your product line to real world music. And also us, people who are listening to YouTube channels, just bug your influencers to make interviews with musicians, to get them involved with high-end audio. And for measurements, this is another big area that needs to change during the next 10 years. We need to establish finally specifications that are relevant for audio. Because today when you read about amplifier measurements, they are treated as precision heaters. All of the amplifier measurements are done with non-inductive resistors, and that's treating them as if they were precision heaters. And all the tests do to you is tell you which amplifier works best as a precision heater. Nothing less, nothing more. Engineers, find out such parameters that correlates with sound quality. By now it is evident to everyone that THD and other measurements like damping factor, they do not have a straight correlation with music quality. There is a correlation that if it's too good or too bad, then it translates to bad sound. And we know that the number itself does not translate, even if it's like you have a component that's, let's say, have a 0.1% THD and it sounds perfect. You get another component that has the exact same THD and it might sound crap. So it's not the THD that defines sound quality. Engineers, find measurements, find parameters that can be correlated with sound quality. This is your task for the next decade. And an even greater task, find out parameters and measurements and measuring tools to measure loudspeakers, because for loudspeakers the situation is tragic. We can only measure, and we do measure only rudimentary aspects of loudspeakers, and for example, on top of that, the phase response of loudspeakers is totally neglected, and amplitude dependent distortion is also totally neglected, and also, just as a whole overarching idea, people are only measuring distortion, which is additive distortion, so distortion that is added to the sound. We should be also measuring subtractive distortion, things that disappear from the signal, that are at the signal level, but they do not make it to your ear. And when we measure loudspeakers, we should not stop at the cone output. We should be measuring the response of the air, how the speaker interfaces with the air, because the loudspeaker and air interaction is even more critical than the loudspeaker and amplifier interaction. But that's for another day. A very important task that lies ahead of us is to build up your knowledge base. And I'm here recommending a few YouTube channels, the ones that I can recommend because I watch them and I love what they do. Actually, there is Telepolis, and he has an amazing channel. He posts like really long videos, and he runs off on tangentials, and but he is not an influencer. He tells what he thinks, and he doesn't sugarcoat. So if you want to hear an honest voice, then it's Stereopolis. I can really highly recommend it. Actually, I started my channel because he hasn't posted for almost a year, and and I was just like, nah, I cannot take the silence anymore. Someone has to chip in the gap. So that's why you see this channel, because of Stereopolis has inspired me that yes, there people want to hear impartial voices. We want to hear ourselves. You want to hear what other audiophiles' journeys are, and you don't just want to hear someone who's on a pedestal and talking to you because he does like 10 reviews a month and that's his livelihood. You want to hear of people who do not have high-end audio as their livelihood, but they are passionate about it and they share their experience with you. There's Mr. Carlson's Lab. That's an amazing channel, but I'm going to sleep here if I'm going to go through each of them in detail. So these channels are about audio, and I can recommend them. And I can recommend these even more because I would say, if you're an audiophile, check your bearings and put music first, and then audio gear second. And with that attitude, these are some channels which talk about music and which I love to watch, I love to see. Two Set Violin, these are two guys who are violinists and they are talking about violin. It's an amazing channel, and they are doing some really amazing stuff, like comparing Stradivariuses, how they sound. For example, how does a $1 million violinist play on a Stradivarius and like a $10,000 violin, and then a $10,000 violinist on a Stradivarius, and can you hear the difference? Which is better? So they're doing tests like that, and they do tremendous education about what being a violinist means, what classical music is. Brandon Acker, he's an amazing guitarist. It's just, if you are into guitar or lute or any kind of these stringed instruments, he is a treasure to watch. Rob Scallon, he's also a guitarist, but he's looking at all kinds of different music instruments. It's just, he has amazing, fantastic material. And Devore Fidelity, John Devore, he builds speakers, but he's really passionate about music. So he has lots of videos about what are his favorite music, what are his takes on that. And I really wanted to mention that because that's what you want to look for in those people whom you support as builders of equipment that you want to buy. You want to buy speakers and stuff from people who are passionate about music. Find out which are the manufacturers who really care about music on a deep level, and support them, because that's how their passion of music will find you too. If you support companies who don't care about music, they just care about sales or artificial sound, then that will be the direction you will be led towards. Please make a choice, what is it you want, and then grow towards that direction. And my last advice, dedicate year 2021 to develop your hearing, because your hearing is the most crucial. You can have $1 million stereo system, but if your hearing is not $1 million, but a 50-cent hearing, you can do better with a hearing aid, and you won't notice the difference in sound. So that is the most important thing. If you want to enjoy audio, if you want to step up on your audio journey, then you need to step up on your skills, on appreciation of music. Otherwise, you will be like a colorblind in the art museum. You will be missing 70% of what's going on. So I really hope that you get inspired to have a wonderful new decade, and to just turn your ears into golden ears. And I hope I gave you ideas where to develop towards. Live long and prosper, and like and subscribe.